Quick first introduction to myself, guys. I'm originally from Switzerland, grew up here in Switzerland, went to school, started a different career as well. Didn't start it in 3D right away, and basically discovered 3D in my teenage years as a hobby and really enjoyed it and loved it. And it was an up and down though, just kind of like sometimes I did more, sometimes I did nothing, as it is, parties, friends, other hobbies, other obligations came into the way, right? And eventually, like years later, then I made the decision to actually want to make this to a career choice as well and just do it for a job because I kind of didn't saw a future in the job I was doing. I was working in professional photography, but more on the technical side, so supporting professional photographers, setting up large photo studios, large format printing systems, and things like that. And then, yeah, went to school myself. Went over to Vancouver, Vancouver Film School, and basically after a year of school I got a job right away at Image Engine here and the chance to work on a couple pretty high profile titles like Independence Day, Final Fantasy movie, and Game of Thrones, which was pretty cool start, just to kind of get exposed to some high quality work. Image Engine then ran all, so the movie industry, at least back then, worked a little bit more in cycles, so it was up and down. Usually fall, winter, spring was very busy, summer was a little bit of lull, and then it picked up again. So Image Engine ran out of work, switched over to Zoic. Was an interesting change. Zoic is more specialized on episodic work and TV shows and faster paced projects. So there I worked on a couple shows here, series Unfortunate Events, Arrow, Beyond, and like this Navy SEALs show called Six. Honestly, if you've never seen those two shows, and some of the stuff you're gonna work on anyways, guys, it's just you're not always in the luxury position of working on the amazing blockbuster stuff, right? So it's at a certain point a job where you just have to get through it and you have to do your you just have to do your jobs, right? And not every show can be amazing. So sometimes you work on pretty trashy stuff too. But as long as it's 3D, it is fun, and that's what this is all about. And that's why, honestly, for those of you just joining, entering this career, it's a decision I never regret. It's the most amazing change ever. I still love 3D to this day. I'll teach 3D, I'll mentor students and all. I live and breathe it basically, and it's been a real pleasure. So after Zoic went over to Digital Domain, and then that's where basically I spent the majority of my time, where I worked on movies like Ready Player One, Rescue. That was a huge Chinese production. We worked on Avengers, Endgame, Infinity War, Ragnarok, Thor, Call of Duty cinematics. We worked on we had a huge digital human project before MetaHuman, before all that kind of stuff was out there. We basically developed like a system which allowed us to face track and then transfer it onto digital characters live in Unreal as well. Then I had the chance to work on, I built this Martin Luther King head, which then got printed on the Time magazine cover as well, which was a pretty cool project. And it was an actual piece then been showcased in the Smithsonian Museum in the States, where they just had a virtual reality speech or a version of Martin Luther King's speech. And I think, one of my favorite projects, honestly, because it was actually a sculpt we could start without scan data, without anything, just kind of starting off a sphere sculpting. Then The Query was another game I worked on. That's where I led the whole facial team. We did all the heads, basically. That was our task. The Supermassive Games tasked us with building the whole heads, doing the facial performance of all heads, where I led a whole team, where I had to scan all the talents here in LA and basically rebuild the heads high end, and just, yeah, led a facial team on this. And then after my Digital Domain time, after kind of 7 years, I was at the point where I needed a little bit of change. So I switched over to Scanline, and at Scanline I worked as a character and facial artist then on The Flash and Black Adam, which was a pretty cool experience because Digital Domain is a very high-end facial house. So we've been building insanely high quality facial performances and facial builds in general, and then coming to Scanline, which just started more with a little bit higher end characters. That was a day and night difference in the tools and the quality, and especially the time we had, right? Like as example for Flash, where we had to do a digital double version of Christopher Reeve back as the old Superman. We had like 3 weeks to get like a hero head representation, and at Digital Domain when we worked on Thanos as example, we worked just a year just on the blend shapes, just on the facial performance shapes, right? Just to give you guys a little bit of perspective on how different um how different the timing or the time spent on certain assets is. And that's in general something which brings me to a good point of what you guys have been doing right now, right? Like you've been studying 3D or just went through a school and keep doing 3D. The time we spent in these projects is quite a bit, right? As you know by now. And this is total normal. So I think as well, I mean, maybe hands up here in the chat, who thinks you're slow? I'm just curious to see um, how the general, or yeah, who thinks who is, if you're slow or slow in modeling and everything takes forever, and yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I can calm you down. That's a total exactly mentally and modeling. I mean, honestly, it's a normal part, you know. Sometimes I got stuff shown when I started as a facial modeler, and I got introduced into all these deformers and special techniques and crazy things to kind of to we had to hack facial shapes and do cool stuff. I felt mentally slow as well because I was just like, so can you explain me that modifier or that deformer again, please? Because I totally didn't got it, right? And I think it's important to just be okay with the fact that these things take time, right? And I mean, everybody I know, all my industry buddies as well, usually everybody thinks, oh, I'm so slow, but we just kind of okay with it. At a certain point, you're just okay with it, right? So anyways, after Scanline, I basically switched to a more full-time position at Think Tank. I started teaching and mentoring at Think Tank during my time at Digital Domain part-time. Really started loving teaching and mentoring and just guiding students through projects and just helping them out wherever I can. Anyways, like moved back to Switzerland just to family reasons basically, and then the school was just a better time man or from a time management perspective, and how do you say that? Like it's the film industry works very much tax based, right? So if you live in Vancouver or BC, they love hiring you just because they get a lot of tax benefits from the government back. And if you're an overseas contract, so like me in Switzerland, this still works, but only if there is plenty of work and if they can justify overseas contracts like that, right? Of course, there has been more and more freelance contracts as well. That's something which kind of slowly starts happening here and there as well, because they're sometimes in high demand for especially facial modelers and things like that. So I've been done doing here and there freelance stuff as well besides school, but otherwise I'm basically freelancing here and there, working for school, teaching, mentoring, and building an own little collectible company at the moment as well, because just I love sculpting and statues in general. So, yeah, so let's dive into portfolios at this point. So we had, again, I don't know if Enridgar is here, but we had this as a first place. And there's a couple things I would point out. Like in general, I mean, of course, but my eye gets drawn right away here into the centerpiece of this character, right? Like it's nice, bright, it's popping out, it's there, catches my attention. So that's definitely a part which has been nailed down here. There's a couple things I personally would pay a little bit more or different attention to, and that's in general one of the biggest things in CG, anyways, guys. And that's something I can't stress enough, to use proper reference, right? So because if this would be a piece of one of my students, there would be a couple things I would always or immediately demand reference for. I would want to see reference for this wall paint or paper. I would want to see reference for what this is. I would want to see organic growth reference for these pieces. And I would want to see more creature and organic growth reference for in general things around here, right? And why is that? So what the biggest mistake in 3Ds are usually like three. Or no, the biggest first one is not using reference or not enough, right? So and we have a tendency to end up over exaggerating bumps. And this is what happens here, right? So we get a lot of bump maps happening and a lot of depth and structure here, which is not necessarily there, or like at least proven different through the actual concept, looking at the concept itself, or like at the reference. This would need to be confirmed to me, or to me, that it actually looks like that. Then we have a very high frequency detail path here, but then suddenly here we're losing a little bit of this growth structure, right? Where I think this here has a huge potential for actually being very fine veined, kind of like sculpting growth, twisting maybe around each other to a certain degree, and just kind of like showing us that this stuff is somehow, it's either growing out of the creature. It doesn't look like, though, it's kind of growing out of the background here, and it just really starts taking over this place, right? And another thing here for me as well is the question for the background. Like, I'm not really sure what is happening in the background. I would rather kind of darken this down, even though I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, the concept was, even here, the concept seems to be like created by himself. Even here, it's already dark, and I love this idea of this thing emerging out of darkness, out of this dark hole of scariness, basically, right? So this is something I would definitely treat slightly different. Another thing which is really important, one thing to understand, guys, if you want to hit creatures, and I think that's been done really nicely here by Enridgar, there is clearly an understanding for human anatomy, right? So we see a lot of human anatomy features. We see some the scapula here. We see the trapezius muscle. We see some ribs. We see the crest here of the pelvis, and clearly hamstrings. And this could be a little, maybe this is bones, but this would be something I probably would attach a little bit more calf muscle to. But we see there is human anatomy underneath. One thing though, and that's a really important part, especially if you guys work on creatures, because what I see a lot out there is, oh yeah, I'll do a creature instead of a real human just because it seems to be easier. But a creature isn't easier, because ugliness has beauty in it as well, and we need to be able to capture that. And to be able to capture that, you need to usually have some sort of human anatomy underneath, and then start deforming that human anatomy to a degree. But you need to obey certain structures, certain rules, and then just play with them and deform them. So, in my opinion, creating great creatures is a great challenge, because it all bases on a solid understanding for human structure and human skeletons and human muscles and so on. So it's a really important understanding. And I love that we have parts of this here. There's other parts, though, where I would say then as well, when we look at the sculpt itself, right? Something you guys have to be very careful when sculpting organic is how folds start and finish, or how certain details start and finish. Here, each rib, I mean, first of all, usually these ribs would be attached probably still to a degree here to the spine, right? And only the front ones are then free floaters here. They're still attached here at the back, and then at the front, they're not, at a certain point, they're not attached to the sternum anymore. So I think this could have been a cool thing to kind of like match a little bit better. And something we have to be very careful about is just the continuity of these interruptions, right? So if you look at this stuff here, everything is almost like carved out fairly clean, where we have to understand sometimes a little bit how folds and these details work, right? So something I just want to show you guys here is, like, if you sculpt folds and wrinkles, right? So it is never just like this and starts and ends. Folds and wrinkles always start subtle, then they have some area of deeper, stronger compression, and eventually they fade out. And this is how you have to treat this stuff, right? I mean, this is still very low res, so it's kind of hard to kind of show this in here. But you don't do things like this, right? For like serratus muscles or stuff like that, where you just pump this up and then refine it. It's really important, and sometimes large damn standard brushes can help you a lot achieving these things. See how I'm getting a little stronger start, and then I kind of start fading it off. Usually the ZBrush brushes are too strong anyway, so you would want to pay a little bit attention to just take them a little lower in their intensity. But for compression zones, we always work like this. So one area, like if we have something kicking in here, it starts a little less strong, then it gets a little deeper and eventually it fades out. And a nice way to kind of re-emphasize this is sometimes just to mask off an area and then just kind of start this, shoving this a little underneath and then this on top and then taking it out and then just, oops, and then doing a little, okay, can we please get a smooth? Yeah, thank you. And then do a little bit of smooth. So you can see, right? Now we have a little bit more like a compression zone here. And then we have basically it's kind of fading out towards here a little bit. So we can go in and smooth it out a little bit. So this is something, guys, if you build folds, wrinkles, or like wrinkles in particular in human faces, or you build fat tissue against fat tissue and all that stuff, there's always this area where the force is the strongest at a certain piece, at a certain part, and then the compression is the hardest, right? So we want to be very mindful when sculpting things like that we get these areas of just fading out, a little bit covered up and things like that. And here as well, right, that we have certain, because a cool thing here would be, as example, getting a little bit skin stretching here in certain areas and not having everything consistently sculpted through. Another important part is having maybe an area where less noise is going on, and that's where the skin stretching could help as well, right? Like, and with noise, I mean, we have a lot of structural stuff here, a lot of structural stuff, a lot of structural stuff going on all on these areas. And this is something where we can really try to blend in a little bit, watch what the skin is doing on top of these areas, because it's not everywhere same intensity or same depth, right? And here as well, these clavicles, the clavicles usually don't just end here, they basically extend into the deltoid, and the deltoid here, that's the acromion process. This is actually a bony landmark. Sorry, I'm not going to go too deep into anatomy for your environment, guys. You're probably just like, Raf, what is it? Go on, or keep moving on. Don't talk too much about anatomy. But then we have the deltoids here attached, right? Front, lateral, and rear deltoid, basically. So these things are just important to keep in mind. And here as well for the biceps as example, where the biceps again has a very strong cutoff, where the tendon of the biceps is actually attached here to the forearm as well, right? So we have a little bit like a smooth kind of triangulated transition, and then it kind of fades into that forearm. So just from a sculptural point of view, that is important to keep in mind. But otherwise, I think, I mean, it's really shaping along great. Here again, that's a confirmation of too much bump, right? If we look at these at this wood structure, we would never see this wood that damaged, right? Or that deep. This is a very fine structure, usually a very fine breakup. So it's really important, guys. Keep your eyes open for too much bump intensity. In doubt, dial your bump slowly in. Start at 0.01 and then 0.1, 0.2, and just test and see how it looks like and compare to your reference. That's always my most important. Yeah, William, bony landmass. Ugh, yuck. No. So yeah, cool. But I hope this helps. And here I wanted to put another piece of his in here because I think this balances it nicely, right? We have here a little bit more stretching, a little bit muscle striation, and we have a little bit of calmer area where not too much surface stuff is going on. A little more definition here. This is nicely balanced. We have a lot of flow and shape happening here in this face. And again, we have areas of rest where we don't have too much surface stuff happening. And I think that's important to keep in mind. Cool. And then this here, contrast in light. This is a thing I keep preaching to my students again and again and again as well. This has a fairly even light, or we almost could have. It would be cool seeing actually the glow of the eye a little stronger, and then having a little bit more hard contrast, hard light in here as well, where we just see the cheekbones and darkness here, stuff emerging partially out of darkness just to make it even look creepier, hiding some stuff here in shadow as well, some highlights. And I think this was what Gabe's work here is showing that contrast light. Gabe, is Gabe here by any chance? Nope. Okay. So, but that was Gabe showing this really nicely here, like lights, shadow, right? So this is really, really important. And guys, this pops into your eye right away, right? Like this looks beautiful in contrast to each other, where we can see, yes, this catches my attention, and but still I have this other stuff going on left and right. But this is really important if you guys light your work, props, characters, environments, all that kind of stuff. We want to have a certain contrast balance in there. So don't neglect these areas. Very, very important. Something here for Gabe's work is cool to see. I mean, he did an excellent job here as well in just translating basically this whole concept into an impressive 3D piece with like 1,000 assets in here, and on top of that, like a whole set of materials done in Substance Designer, which is super impressive, like how much work this takes. Love the detail here of actually, because if you guys have seen how tiles are getting pushed down, they always have this kind of circular structure underneath, and then or basically through the this comes from the mortar being applied to the floor, and then it gets kind of like with the tools applied to it, it gets this circular structure. So I think it's a pretty cool level of detail we can see here. One thing, I mean, besides the incredible amount of assets and just the way it looks and is been lit and everything, this is for me an excellent piece of portfolio to showcase your work and showcase that you can deal with a lot of different aspects, right? We have hard surface pieces, we have texturing, we have different materials, we have a cool light, interesting lights guiding us from basically here this type of setup then straight over to this one, right, where we see kind of like stuff going on and our eye has a lot to discover basically. One thing I wanted to point out for Gabe though is I feel almost the wear and tear is too extreme on most of the pieces, and we have massive wear and tear pretty much everywhere, right? Oh, that's a rhyme. We have massive tear and wear and tear pretty much everywhere. So it's I would probably tone this down by maybe 50% to see how it looks, just in its intensity, right? This is the one thing I would have tried. And we can see this, guys. This was a really interesting thing for me to look at Gabe's work. When we look at this one here, this is the gray shaded pass, right? This one here has a lot going on, but still a certain quietness in its visual appeal and appearance. If we look at the black and white version, which has the color pass in, we see right away how noisy it gets, right? From an amount of stuff happening. It's just visually what's happening. And then I was wondering as well myself, like, okay, what could this be? Because this one here, like, I mean, I love how, again, we have certain areas of rest and certain areas of so much going on. I mean, this is so cool. Like the detail work here is absolutely phenomenal, and just how it's broken up and how realistic this looks like, right? But I think just the fact of all the different color shades and breakups in the tiles, in the wall elements and all that stuff potentially is a little bit too much, at least for my taste, even though I think we have it a little less almost in the concept, a little more even in tones towards each other, it feels like. But I think that's probably the only thing I would have now looking at this with a fresh set of eyes, is probably something I would have kept a little less color variety in it, just to maintain a little bit more of the I think this looks really, really amazing, and we can see it doesn't steal. I mean, if we look here, we still see the reflections and all that stuff. But I think here, the reflections and the roughness maps really shine, right? So, and this shows you guys as well how important roughness maps is. And this is, by the way, another thing I see in student work a lot is that roughness maps get neglected too much. And that's something I want all of you to do as well. When you look at your work, check out your work for how do you have a well balanced um, variety of roughness maps. Because if everything has the same roughness, right? If everything is the same shiny or matte finished surface, stuff is never gonna look real. And I think this is a great example here because this looks super real just with one gray shader applied, right? I mean, we can read there is something wet going on, right? We can see here, okay, this is probably a plastic hose. We can see here, okay, this is probably, yeah, I can totally imagine this has been a paint layer here, which is kind of peeling off, right? So we can read the materials just based on their roughness, and that's something I really, really like. And here even as well for this container of liquid here, that's perfect. And that's exactly the stuff we're basically looking for. Here's some kind of like maybe this is some yeah, here we have this foreground wetness, right? Like a little puddle or something. So I think this is a great example on that. But otherwise, this is a phenomenal project, right? And just kind of spot on. This is again, you will always have something at the end you can improve and you can do on. But yeah, cool. Then we have Katja here. Katja is actually here with us. Welcome, Katja. And Katja is one of my current students in my advanced film term. And Katja, I have to say, like I loved this project already when I saw it the first time at Think Tank before you were in my class because I thought it was an excellent execution on cute materials, look, integration. I love the blurriness. It really shows the scale of the little mice. We have a lot of, and guys, that's a really important thing. Look at the color variance in these pumpkins itself, right? And this is the stuff which makes your work shine. If you start realizing, and that's why I think honestly, if my biggest tip for getting better is train your eye in analyzing stuff and break things down. Take a photo of something, analyze it, break it down, make a color palette out of it and break it. And look, I mean, this here as example, right? And yes, a pumpkin on the outside has a dark orange, and then at the inside it's much yellower, has a different color usually, right? So and I think these type of observations are gold. And then even in the outside layers here of Katja's pumpkin, we have color variation. And that is the stuff which makes your work shine. These kind of observations, right? That is so crucial to observe these things, these differences, and implement them. And of course, we don't have a hyper real pumpkin here as well, but that's totally suiting the actual work. It suits the style of the concept and everything. And I think that's been executed excellently here as well. And even here we have details on the ropes. It feels nice. This little detail here has actual a little bit imperfections, as you guys can see, right? Like we don't have this perfect circle, this perfect circle here. It actually feels like it has an imperfection of a screw which has been already used a couple times. And so is that actually a snail? As I just saw, this is so cute. So yeah, I think this is a piece as well where I particularly don't have any critical feedback on. Of course, like if I would sculpt like a mouse just without fur, I would go in and reinforce a little bit more like the actual skin folds and stuff like that. But for a mouse with fur on, why bother? And that's always the thing you guys have to ask yourself, right? Why bother if we already have fur on top? So don't sculpt it. And that's in general something I would recommend you all is like if you work on a portfolio piece and you build a character and the character's fully clothed, or you build something where certain elements are clearly covered up in your final piece, don't spend time on it. It's some when I started 3D, I always thought like, oh, I gotta put time into everything, into building the screws underneath, which I'm never gonna see. And honestly, my personal work these days, if I build something, I still do that, but just because I love it. But for if you work for portfolio or if you work in production you just create what you actually need to create. But if you work for a portfolio for yourself, and you're under time constraints to a certain degree, I would recommend you to just skip what you really do not see and then just keep refining the rest, right? Or basically what you actually see. And then if you still have time left, have fun, knock yourself out, create that screw nobody's gonna see, just to showcase, right? Of course, if you want to build, like, let's say you focus on just one particular complex chair, and that's your main asset, and you want to build amazing textures, then I would definitely build everything on that one chair, because you can showcase this in your portfolio as well, right? You can showcase a little bit of an explosion model where you see every screw, every part, and everything you build. But if you have like a huge project, like a character with a lots of clothing and lots of props, don't go in and create an insane anatomy sculpt underneath, right? It might be a little bit of waste of time down the road. Cool. So yeah, I mean, excellent job in general on these pieces here, to be honest. I think they all have their strength, and they all have their appeal and amazingness in it. And it's been just lovely seeing all these different approaches on stuff, or different styles. I love how everybody has their own little bit of 3D style and into pushing things through. One thing I just want to go into, and I just took a couple screen grabs here. This is my portfolio section tips I'm going to talk about in a second, but I just want to bring this in because we just looked at these profiles here. I want you guys to look a little bit here at what we see in each of those profiles, right? Like the variety or the type of work. And so for Katya's example, we have a mix between, I mean, stylized, a little bit creature, a little bit furry stuff here. Love how these birds look like. Katya's like really good at birds and Houdini, with Houdini feather systems and all kind of stuff, which she's been doing in the current project right now, which is amazing. But in general, for if I'm looking at a portfolio like this right now at that stage, I wouldn't be 100% sure on what Katya wants or is specialized in. So this is an important stuff for you guys to think about down the road as well. As better your pieces are getting, I would consider potentially removing or curating your portfolios in a way that they're catering to a very clear niche, right? Because here we can see Katya's definitely doing some grooming related stuff, cool grooming stuff. Here we have I would say grooming stylized at this current stage, right? So this is the kind of stuff where we potentially, because we have a cool looking sheep groom here, we have some cool reptile detailing, another groom project here as well. So that would be my takeaway from a portfolio like this, right? And this is not meant judging or anything. It's more meant from, like, if I would look at a portfolio from a recruiter point of view and somebody applies for a job. So catering a portfolio to the role you potentially want to achieve, to the studio you would potentially want to work, is really a helpful thing to do. So if we look at Gabe's as example, for Gabe, it's pretty clear. So we are looking either at an environment or material artist. That's it, right? Because we have these environment pieces, we have props. Props is always something, guys, and this is a question came up for multiple students of mine as well. So, hey, I want to become a character artist. Why should I focus on props? For the simple reason, because at work, if you get thrown at a character, who builds the props? Most likely you. So if you get a full character with armor plates and guns and whatsoever, you don't necessarily have that person being like, oh yeah, no, give me all the hard surface part, I build it for you. It's gonna be you as a character artist who builds all that stuff. So showcasing the skill of hard surface modeling and environment, or hard surface modeling and characters, is a crucial element, in my opinion, for your portfolio. So if you want to have a strong portfolio to showcase a strong skill, a well balance between maybe one hero asset and then or a character with a couple hero assets, or you can separate it, you can create a bust piece or something like that and a hero asset on top or at the side as well. So that's another option. And here for Endringer, we have the same thing as well. This looks clearly to creature work. I can't say real quick. I mean, we started a little bit more with stylized work, and now it goes towards more realistic and horror creature stuff, but there is a clear direction as well towards creatures, right? So, and I think especially while you're a student. I mean, the only other thing you can diversify your portfolio, in my opinion, is if you have an amazing character and you have an amazing landscape piece and everything looks like spot on and blows people away, have it all in your portfolio, right? Then don't have variety in it at all. But that's the only thing, because that's something when I would look at a portfolio, I would say, yay, Gabe, welcome. Gabe, I hope you. I don't know if you missed it already, but I went through your portfolio already here. I mean, basically your review. Of course, and you can rewatch the recording. Yeah, you can rewatch the recording. Otherwise, like I'll just point it out a couple things, but in general, excellent work there. I love it. Super cool. So yeah, just in general, guys. I think keep those things or thoughts in mind. They can be really helpful. Okay. All right. So I want to just still, as we have some time, and then we're going to jump into basically portfolio tips and then some most important aspects to be hired. I want to just quickly go into the other portfolios here for a second. Just let me see real quick. I probably got to reshare my screen. Just a sec. I gotta open this up here. So I'm gonna start here from the top with Lucas's portfolio. So let's pop this up here. Just gonna open those for a sec. Lucas, William here, and then Salah and Idris. Okay, let's see how far we. I'll share in a second here again. Cool. Okay, and let's see how far we can get through with things. I'm trying to be very efficient and quick, and then we see from there. All right, there's a lot. There's a lot. Okay, so okay, here, like this is probably the last one we can take. Okay, cool. So let's go back here, and then I'm sharing my screen again. Share. Oh, by the way, guys, is my screen okay for you with the size, or is that too wide? Is that working? I think hope it works because sometimes it looks super small then, right? All right, so we have Lucas's, and bear with me, guys. Like I haven't looked at yours, of course, before, so I'm just going in with fresh eyes and looking at stuff. But for Lucas, if I'm looking at this, it clearly confirms 3D game environment. Perfect. So this is right away what I can see here. In the portfolio, and then we have it looks like three. Yeah, super cool. I mean, this is already catchy, right? This is for me, it's all okay. Let me just minimize this here. This is for me already a catchy shot. If I see something like that, I keep watching. And that's an important thing as well, right? Like your first shot, your first couple images need to be really captivating. And here, light blinking a little bit, the kind of mood contrast levels look great to me. We have a little bit motion here in the wind and everything. This camera held kind of looks cool to me. It intrigues me. I want to keep watching. This is definitely the stuff like as a recruiter or as a team lead. If I would see something like that coming in, I would definitely watch the full thing and spend time on just taking it all in. Yeah, detailed shot here as well on a prop. Yeah, super cool. All right, let's see. Couple nice renders here as well. That always makes for a nice portfolio shot too. And I think, guys, this is a great example here as well. And then we have something a little bit brighter. I like that. Like, oh wait, no, I didn't want to go to the next project here. Let's go back. Go back here. So then we have something a little bit brighter, which kind of breaks the mood a little bit. I don't mind that, to be honest. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, a little bit here, like a high to low poly kind of setup. Ah, nice. Yeah, and these tech demos, guys, are great to showcase. This is gold, right? Like, because this is the stuff which is interesting to see for everybody who potentially wants to hire and wants to get you on board, right? Because again, it's simple to do. You just quickly record your Unreal user interface and you show a little bit what you've been building in there and so on. A little bit material, yeah, nice material demonstration. We see beautiful roughness maps here and here as well. Nice breakup in the stained glass, which is great. Another material demonstration. I think this is an exemplary breakdown as well on a project, right? The modularity kit here, nicely foliage. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, there's honestly, this is showing everything somebody wants to see who wants to hire you. Nice little breakdown here. And now I want to become an environment artist myself. No, now for me, it's still honestly on my to-do list to kind of dive into Unreal. Like if I have 48 hours a day, I'm gonna dive into Unreal environments because I love the cinematic style, the cinematic looks of these things, and just foliage in itself fascinates me. So I would probably do just landscapes, mountains with some rocks in it and stuff like that. But cool stuff, Lucas. Definitely strong portfolio here. I won't have time to go through all these. I'm just picking one here. I'm guessing it's always your guys' latest, but yeah, awesome, awesome stuff for sure. Cool. Let's move over here to William. Let's go. Okay. I like it. So what I'm seeing here as well, already props environments, right? Like let's see at the description, what do we have? 3D environment artist, perfect. So it's clearly communicated to me already in here. I see you got already 80 level production breakdown here. Oh, wait, that was Oh, cool. I remember yours. I was reviewing once, like I think a live session of your supervisor, and was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a cool project." So I saw this in a super early stage, actually. Love how it turned out. I mean, yeah, like, are these little welding? No, are these welding lines or something like that? I mean, it looks like. So this is kind of yeah, I love this kind of stuff, right? Lucas, for me, William, sorry, I was still somehow back with Lucas here. A couple things I would personally look at from a wear and tear point of view. We have a little bit somehow a little bit more generic kind of wear and tears here and there where I have to say where I would probably kind of look a little bit closer at the reference. Here is we have a little bit of striation, like a little bit almost like brushed metal. Here we have something kind of like I think it would have been cool to have some of these maybe a little bit. I don't know how your concept looked, to be fair. Again, I should maybe take a look at the concept first. But that's the stuff which I would point out potentially, right? That we have a little bit more like drippy areas, but on the other hand, the piping looks clean. It looks kind of well maintained. So the overall language in itself works properly with each other based on the cleanness of the pipes. Because usually, if you have copper pipes and you don't do anything with them for a long time, they're gonna go oxidize, right? So, and I think that's why this looks like a well-maintained place. So I would imagine that they probably scrub and clean here and there and just make sure everything is nicely cleaned up. But here as well, exemplary showcased modular kits. Love the pipe kits here as well, so we can actually see how the pipe's been constructed and everything, which is great to see as well. And here, for the carpet, I probably would imagine a little bit. I don't know how it looks in full on detail at the end, but I would want this to pop a little bit more off, or like at least in its colors potentially a little bit, or in its fabric structure. It's a little hard to read. Same as this piece here, but this might be a background piece somewhere where we can just get away with a little bit less resolution. As it looks like, yeah, it seems to be somewhere a background piece. It's not popping to my eyes right now. Cool, but here as well, a little bit of Unreal demo and materials. That's always great to see, right? And here we see as well this beautiful breakup here in roughness. Roughness. Would expect a little bit more roughness breakup maybe in the actual shingles here. Nice roughness breakup here. But again, we can, as you guys know, we can keep kind of cranking down on those things to absolute eternity if we want to keep tweaking things. Good reference board here as well. So yeah, that's been a really, really nice breakdown here as well, and a little bit motion. I love that's just I love about this in the Unreal projects that you guys have motion in there. Like rendering this always just takes so much more time, right? With all the motion, with all the not just all the frames, and then if you have higher render times, it just takes forever. Cool, William. Love it. Nice stuff there. Again, the only thing for me would be the little bit materialization, maybe a little bit drip and dirt and grime in a couple corners, or a little bit a couple like underneath the pipes and things like that. That's pretty much it from a material point of view, and a little bit more detail and crispiness on this carpet potentially. One thing here, though, sticking out to me a little bit is the bump pass, where I would have asked you as well to show me your reference to kind of confirm this type of bump pass on a piece like this. Cool. All right. So then we got Salah. I hope Salah, probably from Egypt. Yeah, Cairo. I mean, this looks like a solid character project here, like a character artist portfolio, which is amazing. So I guess this is your latest one, guessing? And what do we have here? We have Arnold, so we have more like a film pipeline. Cool, nice, awesome. Let me just kind of go through here a little bit. I mean, first of all, appeal looks nice. Love how it's coming through. Um, Let me see. There's maybe couple things, maybe the lip line here, little sharp. You could refine that a little bit, but from a presentation point of view, I think this has been done really, really nicely. Could be a little bit more skin or micro skin breakup here at the ear where the highlight is hitting, right? And where we have a micro skin breakup, guys, is literally just a pass of like a tile with just some nice little skin breakup, a small one tiled over the whole head in Maya and just in the bump map, not even in the actual displacement map, right? To kind of break up things a little bit more. But this is what I love about this project here is definitely the lighting aspect, right? We have a nice little almost rim light. We have a nice little key light here, and then some kind of fill happening through probably the HDRI. We got a little bit reflection HDRI wise here. We got the eye water nicely popping out, which is great to see. So this is really, really cool. And I think it appeals to me from a lighting point of view and a presentation point of view, right? We have a good set of contrasts in here and popping in to really show us. Yeah, I think you have a micro displacement on, as it looks like almost here at the nose. Yeah, and that kicking in, right? Which is great to see. Here as well, shallow depth of field, nicely showcased. This is perfectly fine for these type of renders here to do a little bit of turnaround. Looks a little, sorry guys, no offense, game engine-y here. I'm not sure like if this was just a simple studio setup. Yeah, it looks like we have three area lights from the front or like around him coming in. But again, this shows us here nicely how your roughness map works. Would expect maybe a little bit variation in the roughness map itself, but that's always a little bit of tweaking anyways, right? These roughness maps. Oh, cool. It was from this artist. Yeah. Nice. Love it. This is such a cool artist. A very good interpretation, by the way, I think from a sculpting and an executional point of view here for this piece. Really nice. Um I mean, one thing sticking out is pretty much maybe a little bit the colorization here at the eyelids, right? There's a little bit of different tonality here, but that's it. And this is actually, guys, like if you try these things, right, of changing tones around the eyes, this has such an insane impact on your work, and this can make a lot of difference. Yeah, cool. But great presentation as well. Yeah, I love these gray shaded renders. Beautiful eye setup here as well. Keeps me watching, and that's always what you want, guys. You want to get people look at your stuff and keep them engaged in your portfolios, right? So, and a thing I'm always against though is if you have too many same angles. That's more for environment art though. Like if I see a shot constantly showing the same area but just from top down, bottom up, left, right, all these kind of angles, it sometimes can become a little bit intense. and we kind of want to try to keep that to a low. Again, to just keep people engaged to watch our reels. Yeah, but this is perfectly fine to me here. This looks great. Awesome job. And I think it's cool to see here your progression, right? This was probably 5 years ago. I mean, and that's the cool thing, guys, like about keeping your old work, right? Look at this is probably one of your first characters, and then from here to here, right? Awesome job. Super cool. And I think that's really important. Like, at least I do that with my students in most cases, that we sometimes look at like week one in week 13 or 14, just like more active to just get a little bit of boost and a spark of motivation, basically. All right. Like, okay. So without looking, material artist, clearly. Okay. So this is already well catered here. We get, okay, wait, maybe I should check. Yeah, okay, for me, roughness maps just do it, right? Like when I see different roughnesses and things like that, and then a little bit of irregular structure and detail, surface noise. And this is a great example here, guys, of not overdoing the bump map. So what I love in particular about this, we have a little bit stuff happening here in these edges. We have some other ones which are a little bit chipped off. There is a beautiful irregularity in the passes of details. And that's something you guys always have to keep in mind. You can't just slap on a bump map, tile it, and call it a day. It needs breakup, and this is what the breakup shows. Look at this, right? Look at how this is worn off, a little bit kind of like chipped off probably, and then other panels here are perfectly nice. This might have happened when it was cast at this piece, or when it was casted in clay or pressed in clay, right? Something touched on top of it and it kind of chipped off a little bit. Things like that, they're gold. There are gold for you to have a successful looking piece of work, right? Here, nice presentation. I love that the character is kind of grayed out or whited out, just to kind of give a little bit more idea on just the scale of this flooring. Makes immediately sense, right? Want to of course look at this here as well, please. I want to see your network for this piece. I mean, this is insane. Okay, this is pretty impressive. This is super impressive. Yeah, exactly. I want to see that kind of stuff here. I mean, this makes me want to ask, can you teach me how to do this, So I think, again, this is the type of stuff where I think work shines, right? I mean, how did you, okay, wait, did you, okay, you gotta answer me here in the chat real quick. Did you create this fully procedural? This is not coming from a sculpt. You put this together in Substance Designer? Okay, that's insane. That's insane. I mean, okay, I'm impressed. Like this is, I mean, I was looking at, I mean, I'm doing Substance Designer stuff, very, very surface scratchy. But this is next level. I mean, okay, impressive, impressive. Yeah, this is really cool to kind of see, and the presentation is really nice as well, right? So for me, if I would look for a material artist, this would definitely be. I would honestly put the one thing I would put into your breakdown here, address is your node graphs, just a couple screen grabs of your node graphs, because they kind of must be insane, I would imagine. But yeah, pretty impressive, really cool, really cool. And again, another example of what Substance Designer apparently can do. Apparently, there is no boundaries. Yeah, right, William, that's me too. I'm proud of my simple wood material. I'm like, I did this. And then I see this and I'm like, all right, there's different stuff possible. But awesome work, really cool to see. So, Arvind, let's check it out here. What do we got? So we got some character artists, clearly. That is a clear thing for me to see here as well. All right, we got a cool hard surface prop with a grenade holder on top. Yep, a little bit of breakdown here. I think this would be an asset where because you okay, was that let me see, that was your foundation. Yeah, perfect. No, I mean impressive for your foundation project already, because I mean already doing a character wasn't even on the agenda, right? So you already pushed that a little further here, which is great to see. Couple things from I think the metal material comes through very nicely. I love the breakup you have. It just doesn't look too generic, which is great to see from here as well. I mean, the fabric material here for the, I mean, this looks like almost like a puffy jacket material, so some kind of synthetic material. This could improve a tiny little bit, but otherwise, honestly, for foundation project here for you starting 3D, absolute amazing work tackling this concept here to a very, very good accuracy towards your actual concept here. Great job on this. I think this was done probably before, yeah, before Think Tech. Nice. Okay, cool. Super. Arvind, what are you going for? Games, character games, or character film, or what's the plan? Films? Okay. Oh, that means I'm gonna see you in my term soon. Are you in intermediate now, right? Yep. Then I'll see you next term for sure. Cool. Awesome stuff. Yeah, can't wait to see what's coming then. All right, so here we have clearly stylized environment artist. That is what this looks like. So let's see. We have Dima in Minsk. Nice. Okay. And we have level artist. Yeah, fair enough. Environment stuff here looking really cool. I love the look of these stylized levels. It reminds me a little on Zelda as well. Super cool project here. Yeah, nice breakdown on materials, shader setups here. Love the landscape, good presentation as well. I'm not so much the specialist on stylized stuff, so I can't speak for like, oh yeah, this is exactly the way I would do it or something like that. But I think here as well, just the presentation again with a little bit motion and how everything comes together, a little bit of zoom in shot keeps me engaged, wants me to watch what's going on, to discover all these assets and props here, a little bit of flame going on, which is great. And a nice little breakdown here as well. And I love as well how simple you kept all these things, but still interesting. So we still have a lot of visual interest in these stones and rocks and in the wood as well. Here, the little bit of paint breakup still, it's simple, but still has enough breakup for me to, yeah, to think this looks really nice and cute. Really, really well done. Yeah, super cool and good breakdowns as well. So I think in general here, a lot of the stuff, like I love these kind of magic worlds anyways. Right? I just want to check this out here for a sec as well. Yeah, super cool. I mean, I literally want to go in there now with the VR glasses or something. Like this is such a, is that something you just designed all by yourself, Dima? All this stuff here, or is that was that for a project you worked on, or oh, let me see it. Maybe for this mini project, decided to create a level with baked. Yeah, I mean this turned out absolutely beautiful. One thing, Dima, those shots are a little bit too fast for me. I would love to see everything a little slower. Okay, maybe I should just keep scrolling before before saying something. So we got the stuff a little slower, a little bit more time. Yeah, perfect, perfect. Love the stylized components here of the rocks and everything. Super appealing. I don't even have critical feedback on these kind of things because again, I'm not too specialized in stylized stuff. So for me, this just looks really nice and appealing. I just want to discover it. I want to walk around in this landscape. That's what I want to do. So yeah, cool. For a teaser, love it because the teaser makes me definitely want to know more and see more. I want to see the light tree though here real quick as well. Yeah, this entry. Yeah, super cool. Little particles here in the air. Yeah, it's beautiful. Cool. Awesome job, Dima. Really nice stuff. All right. Then we have Christian. Christian technical art, I would have said like when I'm looking at this character asset artist, that's what I would have said by just looking at these major pieces here. So we have art concepts as well, so that means you're probably hand drawing as well, I guess. And then we have, yeah, so here we as well, like I love seeing the iteration over time, right? And it's all character related at that point, which is great to see as well. So let's look at this latest project here. Yeah, super impressive model. Cool breakup, cool different materials. Love these hands. They're so, I love the materials and the wear here and the edge wear kind of works as well. It feels like, that's another thing in general, guys, like edge wear. Don't just throw edgeware just blindly at everything, because think of like how these characters work, and were from a natural point of view, they would get most of the damage and wear and tear. That's such an important thinking. Love this, by the way. This detail here reads beautiful. It almost feels like here it's not fully sticking on it anymore. We got it almost like a little bit stuck here, but chipped off. A little bit like stretching and air bubbles underneath. Awesome. These type of details, just beautiful. Yeah. And the roughness. Exactly. Super cool. Yeah, nice presentation, nice model in general. Good close-up shots. This here would be, for my taste, a little bit too generic, too much random bump. This is something, again, guys, which goes into that same category which I mentioned at the beginning. Careful with the bump. Try the bump, and in doubt, find reference you can copy from, right? It is the key, most important thing, in my opinion, to nail down a material by analyzing the surface structure in roughness and bump. That is the most important stuff for me to look at, right? If you remember back on what we were looking for Gabe's project, right? So where was Gabe's? Right here, just a sec. No, was it Gabe's? I think so. I wanted to look at this here, right? Where Gabe had, where we can see, we can read the materials just based on the roughness and the bump structure. And this is the stuff you want to nail, guys. Like if you can render in gray and it pops off like this, then you know you did the right job in the materials and everything. And the rest is then the color, right? And Gabe, I was mentioning that as the only thing which I would change probably in this project is you have a lot of color breakup. And I understand why, because you did an excellent job on materials, which is absolutely impressive. But I think looking at this, I have chaos, but still a certain calmness. That calmness goes a little bit away because I think we have a lot of different color breakups everywhere. And color breakups are important, but that's the only part sticking out to me when I'm looking at just this piece here, right? Because this here has one color and just lets your roughness maps and everything shine. It takes no attention away from the beauty in your detail work here, because when I was looking here before, I wasn't spotting, I think maybe because we have a little bit more color breakup in general, I wasn't spotting the actual amount of detail you had till I was looking at this here. And it's just impressive. Like, I mean, how long did you model for this? I mean, you have so many pieces on this. It's crazy. It's amazing. But yeah, Christian, hope this makes sense here. And then, yeah, we have a little bit folds and stuff like that. This is great to see. Yep, here a little bit the bump question again, right? So that's the only thing for me. Here, I love the breakup between the feel of different materials. Always this black splits nicely off. Then this is for me beautiful edge wear. This exposed piece here, and then it becomes black, and then it's silver here on top. So this becomes just nice transition. Super cool. And a little bit of turnaround. Perfect. So, I mean, this is something as well where you potentially can even show if you have something cool to show inside. Oh, no, it was Marmoset. Yeah, perfect. So even out of Marmoset, like a couple screen grabs where you kind of move around in it and show some stuff, that could be cool as well for presentation. And yeah, but otherwise, really, really cool work here. Awesome character. Oh, wait, I wanted to play this one. So we have a little bit of, yeah, nice with the lights and everything. Yeah, beautiful. Perfect. I think this is a speed, guys, as well, which is good. Okay, this, guys, one things talking about cameras. Try to have one even camera, and either a camera panning down or a camera rotating. We have a camera doing both here, right? So we have a camera which zooms out and then kind of rotates away. So you want to avoid, in general, camera paths. They're doing any kind of wobbly stuff or kind of other moves. So just stick to rather natural, clean, slow moves, and don't do too much. I mean, otherwise the cameras look nice and yeah, perfect. And then the last one zooming out, showing the whole character. Otherwise the cameras are perfect. The only thing I would stay away from is cameras where you have a little bit of wobbly path or something going on. So let's get started with this one here. And especially creating some areas of a little bit more. Right now, everything has fairly sharp edges. And I'm missing a little bit areas where we catch highlights on. Just some kind of highlights popping off, right? I don't know, maybe it's on purpose, but if not, That's definitely something I would change. And for your hands as well. Right now you have a cool technical hands here, but they're all straight in their fingers. So just for a presentation purpose, I would definitely make sure that you get maybe, guys, if you look at my hands, like this doesn't look interesting, right? But if we have something more like this, or just something happening, or putting in our hands, or at least something going on with our hands, this gets immediately more interesting for us to look at, right? Because otherwise we end up with too perfect, too technical models, right? And we kind of want to avoid that. So yeah, let me wait a second here until Maya fired up. This one here as well, Vladislav, is something right now I feel you have one light source lighting this out. And I think it would, let me just keep scrolling through before I keep judging too much here based on presentation. Just want to see. Okay, so you're probably ready to kind of keep moving this character then later on. But if I'm looking as example at the back of your character, it feels, because of the way the cloth is right now, still a little bit as a block, right? And I would imagine, like, I wouldn't want to see a little bit more folds, a little bit more depth, like a cape, like something really being animated, having some motions in it, right? So even at the initial state, even at the A pose where he stands right now, just to have a little bit more life in it and folds and dynamic going on, and telling us a little bit more about like that fabric and what type of fabric it is. But that's pretty much one of those areas I would change as well. Here as well, I miss a little bit the catching highlights. And again, Sung Kyun. I hope I just say, okay. This looks like intense work here as well. Super cool. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so here for me, I think the first thing for me as well would be, guys, what do you think? Comment on what I'm gonna comment on here in the chats. What do you think? Based on what we talked about so far. Exactly. Roughness. A little bit more roughness breakup, right? And I mean, right now for me, the question would be, I mean, we have a big patch of no reflections here. So I would probably rather see reflections, and then in the valleys, maybe a little bit less reflections, or in the valleys, more reflections, and outside a little more. Depends, right? Depends on, like, because if you imagine this demon is maybe fighting sometimes with his horns, another demon or something like that, maybe there's some more wear and tear going on. Of course, there's probably concept art for this out there too, because Diablo fan art, I'm guessing. For just the material creation and those ones, I think we get some material really popping through here. I think it would be cool to see a little bit more of the actual glass or material coming through, because you did, it looks like an amazing job on details and metal pieces and all that kind of stuff. So just to have this material shining through, because it gets burned out by the color here, right? Shining through a little bit more could be cool. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, the effects here looks amazing. Super cool work. Crazy. For the skin, I'm wondering, like, wait, what is this put through? This is 3D Max rendered with more V-Ray. Okay, cool. So we need to look at a couple things. Right now, I don't know if you used probably some cavity map color in your diffuse channel or something like that. This would be, for me, definitely something which I would remove, right? I mean, unless you gotta show me the reference you're referencing this for, but I would be careful of like hammering too much shadow or dirt evenly across the full face into these pores and details. That's one area I would look at, because you got a very aesthetically face sculpted, which looks really, really cool. But this is almost a little too noisy for me. It's too much going on. My eye wants a rest on this face. I want to see a little bit more skin. I want to see a little more detail. And of course, you can keep scar tissue and kind of like stuff like that in there. But I would definitely, I want to see a little bit more lip lines and maybe a scar in the lip or something like that. Like you have a scar here and things like that would be cool, right? But I would be careful with taking too much of like a cavity map and pumping it straight into there. So that's something I probably would tone down and just try it again. Here it feels a little less, but I think you can reduce it still a little bit. This gives me a little bit more calmness, but I love the contrast of the lights here as well. Is that feather sculpts here, I guess? Looking great. Looking really good. Yeah, otherwise, I think your hair thickness, maybe the hair is a little bit too thick. I would play with that at least in my render. Love his expression though, how this kicks in. There's something going on with your eye water here. This line looks a little gooey. I would double check if this is actually a proper glass shader or like water shader on top just to see. But yeah, I mean, again, this effects here, that's looking mind blowing. Super nice with the fog and smoke here, the growth structure. Love the bright up, the light, the lit up iris. You can tone down the subsurface scattering a little bit. As soon as we get the feeling, it's a little bit looking like a wax candle or like waxy. Tone down the subsurface scattering, really important. But yeah, otherwise, like I mean, the detail work is mind blowing on this piece and presentation in general as well. The renders, the look here, this one. I mean, this is a cover shot, right? I mean, here with the glowing sword, him kind of focusing into it. I would almost try and see how it comes if you have a little bit of glow, like you have in this other shot for this eye as well, right? Like a little bit of this in here just to give him that piercing look. I mean, this sculpt here, mind blowing, super cool. Again, favorite thing, probably a little bit of roughness breakup, but again, always reference, guys. Reference, reference, reference. That's your key, most important thing. Using reference. Like for my students as example, and Katja can can um is that you always need to submit reference side by side when you do a material. I'm not reviewing work when I'm not getting reference side by side, because the thing is, I want you, if you're, I mean, unless you have an excellent library already built up internally to experience and stuff you've done before, this might be this might be possible, but if not, it's a tough one to kind of come up with certain details by yourself. Here, I mean, yeah, I mean, light is just beautiful. Like, I love the particles here kicking in and just how this all works, and yeah, super cool. The presentation of everything here looks, the shots and the details and different lighting. Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely amazing. Super cool piece. Yeah, I mean that's the only thing, the face structure. But again, maybe it's in the concept. You would need to show me that. Or is the concept mentioned here? It is artwork. Let's pop this open for a sec. Okay, that's a different one though. Huh? Was it inspired by this guy? Or probably inspired by it's cool concept stuff here actually. I like it. Cool. So yeah, this one here, that I don't know. There's not fully clear to me if this is self-illuminating inside or if this is getting the reflection of illuminating. But this would be something as well where I would try to get the light a little more dim and a little bit more like a clear separation between materials. Just so we see, oh yeah, no, that's a glow inside the horn, basically. That's the one thing. Yeah, I think it's I think that it's getting really close here. I think still it's a little. I know this is a tough one with emissive shaders and stuff like that to not make it feel blown out, but it's something worth to keep trying and playing a little bit with it. But I mean, yeah, incredible, super cool stuff. Crazy, crazy piece of work. Just the amount of sculpting there. I'm missing a little bit like a full bot. Okay, wait, let me scroll. Let me scroll. Ah, there we go. The second I want to say it, there is the full bot. Yeah, beautiful detail work. That's it. But so much complexity going on here. I would do probably. Yeah, I mean, you have so much cool looking renders. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, super cool. Yeah, with the glowing eyes here again, super cool. Yeah, I mean it's a really really beautiful presentation to be honest. How did you question, what did you use for all the effects just out of curiosity? Was that all Photoshop then at the end or did you use anything 3D related to put those in? Oh, don't worry, don't call them shortcomings. It's always like in a piece like that you have infinity things to work on, right? So Photoshop, yeah, nice. So was this Photoshop as well, or did you do that in a shader? Curious to hear how you did the head glow. If a mask and then a shader, that looks really cool. Substance designer effect, or yeah, nice. Yep, super cool. Beautiful presentation here. Yeah. Yeah, and then showcasing all the details. Here we get a little bit of roughness breakup. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're doing it full on justice. Your the work you've done, the way you've been presenting it with ZBrush and everything, all the details, all the sculpting here as well. Phenomenal work. I guess that's ZBrush too. This one here. 3D Max. You built that whole thing in 3D Max. Nice, cool. Yeah. Yep. I mean, spot on. Top project, to be honest. Really, really great. Well done. Again, the only thing for me, look that thing on the skin, face, and that's it. But beautiful stuff. Awesome, guys. Questions. Wait, no. Before we jump into questions, Jesus, we're running already 1.5 hours. So let me just jump real quickly. I'm gonna go briefly over this for a sec here, and that is basically my portfolio tips. Because those are important. Quality over quantity, number one. Then avoid showing same areas. We talked about that. Good cameras, not too fast, not too slow. Remember what I said? I think it was with Dima. And I want these slower, and then immediately add slower ones lower down. Important stuff. Don't speed up your cameras too far. Give your audience time to enjoy your work. Focus on important areas, of course. We want to look at the good solid stuff, right? And want to show the stuff we spent most of our time at. Create a title and credit slate. Create a title and credit slate, because if this demo reel lands on somebody's table or desk, and it wasn't you sending it through, the recruiters need to see your email address and your just how to reach you. LinkedIn, very important. And your ArtStation profile, just to kind of access real quick. Cool. Then what are the most important aspects to be hired? Personality. So you got to be nice to work with. That is a key component, because egos don't have a long I mean, nobody wants to work with an ego. I worked once in my life with somebody who had attitude, and nobody in that whole team is ever going to work with that person again, no matter how good. You can be a little less good than the best artist out there, or you can be less good than the best artist, not just less. If you're a nice personality and you're good to work with, that already gives you a huge leg up, right? LinkedIn profile, make sure you all have LinkedIn profiles. You reach out to all recruiters. Connect people, connect recruiters. Just hit connect. You don't bother them. As bigger their networks, as better, because they prefer, as more people they have in their networks, as more people they reach if they send out a job search inquiry. So hit those recruiters up, search your favorite studios, companies, and then recruiter at the end, and connect those people. Being able to negotiate, that's a later on an important part. Once you're in the industry, don't undersell yourself, don't oversell yourself. It's always a little bit of mix, right? But you don't want to stick too long around for a too low salary. Of course, your first job, you potentially don't have a lot of negotiation space, but you will have more negotiation space and room down the road as more and deeper or longer you're in the industry. Eventually, you interview a company as well, if it's an interesting fit for you, right? And that's always a nice thing. Yeah, that's know your worth. It's the same thing. And drop your ego. I think personality, drop your ego, social media, LinkedIn is the most important part. And I think that's more something I myself learned. Yes, all good, Gabe. Take care. What I myself learned over time, unfortunately, at least in Switzerland, it's the case that we are raised with like, oh, I have to be really, really amazing before I can show anything. Put that aside, guys. Just post your work, get it out there, build your social medias and all that kind of stuff. That's a North American trait which I really, really enjoy about Americans and Canadians, and particularly just kind of like putting their stuff out there, no matter, give it a try, give it a go, just go for it, you just try things, and it's that entrepreneurial thinking which I think is amazing, and it's really being supported in America and the States and Canada as well, which is an amazing character trait, or like in general support thing to have, right? And that's unfortunately, at least in Switzerland, it hasn't reached that kind of level. It's far away from, at least. So, but yeah, so don't be shy, put your stuff out. Always ask questions. It's a really important one. Always ask friends, people you know, how to improve, how to get better. If you have other artists, you know, ask them, hey, how would you sculpt this? How would you something? Just to get better over time. That's one of my biggest things I keep doing these days still. Ask, 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 ask. If you don't know something, even if you feel you know it, ask. Because sometimes you learn really cool new stuff. All right, guys. All the best. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.